Hi everyone, this is Kyle. George R. R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, he made a post on his website in the past week where he's unhappy or he's upset about, as he puts it, fans are dancing on the graves of films that are flopping in theaters and how fans are taking absolute delight in that. Now the original post is right here. I've read the whole thing. It's really just him talking about world events going on and how bad he thinks that things are right now, that sort of thing. He's going into a lot of political stuff. He's unhappy that people are supporting a certain orange man who's running for president, that stuff like that. There's one paragraph in this post where he talks about entertainment or the state of entertainment. I'll read it for you. So he starts off, "Well, I take solace where I can in chocolate thrones if nowhere else in books. In films and television shows, though even their toxicity is growing. It used to be fun talking about our favorite books and films and having spirited debates with fans who saw things different, but somehow in this age of social media, it is no longer enough to say I did not like book X or film Y and here's why. Now social media is ruled by anti-fans who would rather talk about the stuff they hate than the stuff they love and delight in dancing on the graves of anyone whose film has flopped." Alright, so I'll start here. He says toxicity is growing. Yes, George, you are right about that. But it's not coming from fans. Instead, it's coming from directors, it's coming from showrunners, it's coming from cast members. In the case of film and television shows, a lot of them are based on books. The people in entertainment, whenever they're adapting a story, they are going out of their way to intentionally change it. They're trying to quote-unquote update it for a modern audience. They're trying to quote-unquote make it reflect the world we live in today. A lot of times these people, they're taking somebody else's work and they're injecting their own personal ideology into it. These people are making shows woke, or they're current daying shows, whatever term you want to use. There's a bunch of different ways you could put it. You see them injecting feminism into a lot of stuff now, where just about every single female character now is being turned into a strong woman, girl boss, queen, while men are typically being portrayed as either evil and toxic or flat out stupid, or being portrayed as misogynist, and these strong women are going to put them in their place, stuff like that. And George, you say I take solace where I can in books and films and television shows. Yeah, fans do that too. The main reason why we have stories is a temporary escape from the real world. That they're a bit of an escapism. Sometimes people like to escape the real world for a little bit and get lost in a story where they might be exploring another world, or they might be up in outer space, or whatever it might be. But in today's day and age, Hollywood has been doing their absolute best to take that escapism out of entertainment. Fans are unable to take solace in it anymore. And because of that, fans are upset. You say that toxicity is growing? Yes, it is. But it's not coming from the fans. It's coming from the people who are working on these films and shows. People who, for the most part, are not entertainers, but rather they are activists. And they're taking basically everything they get their hands on, and they're trying to turn it into a platform for their ideology. And that right there, that is why fans today are so upset, and they are right to be upset. And down here, George mentions social media is ruled by anti-fans who would rather talk about what they hate than what they love. Well, just about everything coming out today is terrible, so there's nothing good to talk about. Believe me, Lord of the Rings fans, they would love to say that Rings of Power was a great show, but the fact of the matter is, it wasn't. Star Wars fans wish that they could talk about how much they love Disney's sequel trilogy, but the fact of the matter is that trilogy, it wasn't good. Marvel fans would love to talk about how much they enjoy all the shows and movies Marvel's making today, but the fact of the matter is, the stuff that Marvel's making now, it's not good anymore. And you could go on with countless other examples. And Martin mentions that fans, they take delight in dancing on the graves of films that have flopped. So here on thatparkplace.com, and they got an article about what George R. R. Martin said, but down here, there's a post from a guy, Chuck Dixon, Batman writer, and he posted this, I guess, back in November. But the problem with this statement from Martin, where fans are taking delight in dancing on the graves of films that are flopping, Chuck Dixon here, he puts it pretty well. So I'll read this. "This bears repeating, because the majority of us are tired of seeing characters and franchises we love sacrificed on the altar of wokeness by people who don't have the love, talent, craft, or business of ever getting anywhere near these properties. That this movie is failing," and I think he's talking about the Marvels when he says this movie, but that this movie is failing so big is a cause for celebration. It is a wake-up call for the entertainment business, and business in all caps, because Hollywood, it is a business, and they've been losing money the last few years as a result of turning one franchise after another into a platform. But it's a wake-up call for the entertainment business that they need to get back to producing well-crafted stuff they used to be capable of. I mean, when a weak cheese movie of a dryball subject like Oppenheimer is out-earning the latest popcorn blockbuster, that's us telling them to get their human excrement together. Yeah, this puts it pretty well right here. And talking about George R. R. Martin here, there was another interview he gave a couple years back. Well, I guess it might be closer to a year and a half back, but this is from the Independent, UK. George R. R. Martin, I don't understand how people can come to hate so much something that they once loved. And this interview, it's a pretty good teachable moment, I think. So it starts here. He says, I don't understand how people can come to hate so much something that they once loved. He says, if you don't like a show, don't watch it. How has everything become so toxic? Again, it is not us fans that made everything toxic. It's you people in entertainment who did that. If you want fans to stop getting angry, all you have to do is show more respect for the stories that you're adapting. Show more respect for the franchises or the IPs that you're in charge of. That's all you gotta do. You simply do that, all this quote-unquote toxicity, it'll go away instantly. And then he continues here, the Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power isn't even on yet, but if you follow what's going on online, the controversy about it is like World War II. They're dropping atomic bombs on each other, he says incredulously, of the fans who howl about any perceived deviation from the source material. Well, it was that very source material that gained Lord of the Rings a huge amount of fans in the first place, so you might want to stick to it. I mean, that's just common sense. You hear controversies about some of the Marvel shows and the Marvel movies, certainly about the DC characters. It used to be if you were a fan of Star Trek, you liked Star Trek. Again, these are more properties where they made some changes. Now it seems like half of the people who call themselves Star Trek fans hate Star Trek, and the Star Wars fans hate Star Wars, and the Tolkien fans hate Rings of Power. What the hell? Now maybe it's because it's changing, but as a writer you'd go crazy if you didn't change it somehow. You want to tell new stories, not tell the same stories over and over again. Okay, here's the problem with this. Now George, you have your own story, Game of Thrones, which you have not finished yet, and at this point honestly I don't know if you're going to finish it. But that is your story. If you want to make changes to it, go right ahead. You are the creator of Game of Thrones, you can do whatever you want. Well, I shouldn't say Game of Thrones, I should say Song of Ice and Fire, but you get the point. But here's the problem. In Lord of the Rings case, the creator for Lord of the Rings, he's been dead for 50 years. It is not Tolkien making changes to Lord of the Rings. Instead, it is people at Amazon, people who are activists disguising as entertainers. It's those people who are making changes to Lord of the Rings. And that's why fans are upset, and they are right to be upset. If you did not create that story, then you have no right to change it. Period. End of discussion. In the case of Star Wars, George Lucas, he had his own vision for the sequel trilogy and Disney decided not to go with it. George Lucas himself said so. And he says Tolkien fans hate Rings of Power. Yes, damn right we do. The reason why Lord of the Rings fans hate Rings of Power is because Rings of Power, to be very blunt, was not Lord of the Rings. Character names were the same, location names were the same, okay? But beyond that, it had no resemblance. No resemblance to Tolkien's work. So Lord of the Rings fans, they are right to hate Rings of Power. And George, if you don't like that, all you gotta do is contact Amazon and tell them to be a little more faithful and a little more respectful of Tolkien's work. If they had simply done that, then you would not be saying this. If people in Hollywood showed more respect for the properties they were adapting, then fans would not be dancing on the graves of any films that have flopped. This situation that we're in now, it is not the fans' fault. The toxicity that's going on in entertainment is not the fans' fault. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.